The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thanks for stopping by. I'm Stephen Jackson with Imprintables Warehouse, and this is a heat press roundup overview and ideas presented by Great Garment Graphics. And today we're going to talk about the different styles, types, manufacture of heat presses, some of the features and functions of each one of them, and what it can do for your business. We'll go over a couple different ideas on how to use the heat presses in some unique ways, and talk about some accessories that you can have for your heat press that will help you out production-wise in your shop. So as we get started here, we've got a few poll questions in the beginning of the webinar, and we should have the first one coming up here in just a second. And it's, do you currently use a heat press? Pretty straightforward on that one. We're seeing who out there has some experience in it and is looking to find out what their next heat press might be or how to possibly use theirs a little bit differently. So pretty straightforward question. Give it just a second for everybody to respond. And 88% of the people here are already using a heat press. Oh, great. Well, hopefully we'll show you some tips and tricks that will help you maximize that heat press. So the second poll question will be coming up here. And I think we have either 3 or 4. I'm not sure. This next one is, what is the primary use for your heat press? And what we're looking for is the one you most use. Not all of them, but just pick the one that you most use it for, whether it's heat applied vinyls, heat transfers that you get maybe from someplace, say like Transfer Express. If you're doing sublimation is the majority of what you're doing, or direct-to-garment curings, or you might have another purpose that you're using it for that we don't have listed here. And the results are coming across. And overwhelmingly 57% of you are using it for heat-applied vinyls, and 29% for the heat transfer, 14% for the sublimation, and none for the other 2 categories. So pretty much almost everybody out there, is their primary purpose is the heat applied vinyls. Next one should be coming up. This one is, what brand of heat press are you using? We're kind of trying to get an idea of what you're using in that heat press that you've got, brand name manufacturer for it. So just pick the one that you are primarily using. If you have a multiple of heat presses, as a lot of shops do, the one that you prefer to go to. Should be coming up in just a second here. And 44% of you have the Hotronics brand heat presses. Fusion 11%. We're going to go over the Fusion. It's a great heat press. Got a lot of unique features to it. And 11% don't currently. That kind of coincides with the earlier question. And then other is 33%. So have one more question coming up, I think. What feature is most important to you on a heat press? Just pick one that's the most important, either an auto-release feature or a digital pressure indicator, pre-programmed digital controls, or the type of press it is, the type of opening, if it's a swing, if it's a clam or a hover press, or even a drawer press or something like that. So the type of and function of the heat press would be what we'd look for there. And we're going to go over each one of these and talk about the pros and cons of each one. Okay, auto release is 30%, and type of opening is 30%, so it's kind of even there on that feature for you. And then the digital pressure and pre-program are 20 and 20. Interesting how that one fell out. So we'll go over all the different features, and for some of you that might not be familiar with some of them, it may change your mind on that. So let's get started here. What does a heat press do? Most of the people who are attending here already have a heat press, and you should be familiar with what a heat press is and what it functions for. But basically it's going to be using a heat element to apply a adhesive-backed material to either a garment. We could be putting it on a hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt, whatever we're applying it to, but it's using heat and pressure over a period of time to be able to apply that to it. It can also be used in the instance of sublimation, where we're heating up that ink and getting it to a point where it's a gas and it's getting trapped in a polyester substrate, or for something like a directed garment where they're using it to cure that print that is on the shirt. There's some important parts about each heat press, though, that we need to keep in mind. The most important part, I think, is the heating element itself. And from manufacturer to manufacturer, you'll get a lot of different heating elements out there, and how they actually function within there, if it's a single piece, if it's multiple pieces, the pattern that they use across the heating element. And it's very critical that we make sure that you get a heat press that has a good, solid heating element in it that's going to apply even, consistent temperature across the entire platen. If you get one that has some dead zones or areas that aren't covered quite well enough and it doesn't distribute that heat properly, you can get overheating or underheating whenever we apply something to a garment, and it won't stay on the garment after that. So it's very important to keep an eye on that feature of the heat press. The frame itself, if I'm talking with a laser cut steel frame, as in the Hottronics heat presses are known for, it's a very solid frame. It's not going to warp or distort over time. It's not going to weaken out and not maintain pressure properly over time. The frame is like your skeleton. You have to have a very solid frame and make sure it's of quality construction for it to last over time and give you consistent results, which is what we're really looking for, is consistent results. The platen itself, the area that we're going to put that garment onto, making sure that it's a quality platen and that it has maybe a rubber portion on it there like we have on most of our heat presses that'll be able to absorb some of the pressure there and keep it consistent across, or whatever else the platen is made of. That's going to be the part that is going to make sure that the garment or whatever you're applying to is held very even and consistent across there so that the heating element can do its job. Digital indicators, pressure indicators, and timer, these kind of all go in hand. The digital indicators, when I first got into the business, I had a heat press that had a little turn dial on it, a little knob that had some marks on it that told me where the temperature was. And whenever I got to the mark that I was on the knob, it was really a guessing game if I was actually there. I've heard different people recommend going out and getting one of those heat guns to be able to tell the temperature off of it, a little temperature gun, and then try to calibrate it from there. But it's really a guessing game. If I've got a digital indicator on that temperature, it's going to tell me exactly what it's at. It's okay if it fluctuates a little bit on there. I don't want to have a heat press to where I'm guessing that it's supposed to be at 320 and it's actually at 300. A pressure indicator, a lot of heat presses out there do not have a pressure indicator. This is part of what we're going to talk about in a little bit, that the critical elements in to make it successful for a heat press. That pressure indicator is one of the key legs in making sure that we get consistent results every time. Having the timer, a lot of the heat presses out there will have dual timers or even more timers than two. It allows me to be able to set it up to have a pre-press, a press, a post-press, whatever I want for that heat press, and to make sure that I'm getting, again, consistent results, which is what it all boils down to. I see a lot of discussions on the different forums, and I talk to customers at the different trade shows and pretty much every day. And a discussion I get into with a lot of them is you'll go out and you'll spend a tremendous amount of money on a cutter or a direct-to-garment machine, a printer, whatever you're using to make your product, or so you're getting into rhinestones and you're getting all the software to do it, or using CorelDRAW, and you spend all this time and money and all these pieces of equipment, and then when they get to a heat press, they run out kind of on their budget, and they go with the lowest cost heat press that they can get. This is really the most critical portion of the entire process. We can have top-of-the-line products and software and everything all along the line, and I get down to the last element, which is going to adhere it to that garment, and I go with the least out there. I'm not going to get consistent results, and no matter how much you put into it before that, you could have a failure on the garment. So it's very important that last portion of the puzzle we have, that we get good quality and we make sure that we're going to get consistent results out of it. The three legs of heat pressing, heat applying anything, we've got time, temperature, and pressure. And without having control over all three of these, I can get inconsistent results. Nothing worse than having a customer come back to your shop and they've got a bunch of shirts that you did for them, and out of those shirts, the names and numbers are coming off of the back of them. And it falls back into, I didn't have the correct pressure when I applied that to the garment. And because I didn't have the correct pressure, it wasn't allowed to adhere properly, and now it's going to come off in the long run. So having a pressure indicator gives me the consistency, as you can see I have there. Having a temperature indicator that gives me a reliable indication is in that digital one that I was talking about, rather than the knob where I'm guessing. And along with that temperature, making sure I have a good heat platen, that heating element there that's giving me consistent across the shirt, that's absolutely critical. And making sure we have the right amount of time and we're using consistency with that. Being able to have the right amount of pre-press so that I can make sure all the moisture's out of the garment, so my adhesive's going to flow into it properly. Makes for a very smooth application, and the application will stay. And that's something that we're definitely looking for there. So having these three elements in a heat press is pretty critical. You could probably survive without one or the other of them, and I hear conversations back and forth about it. Without the time and temperature, having reliable indications on those, I don't think you can really get good, consistent results. And I really feel strongly that having a pressure indicator that gives me consistent indication of what I'm doing and lets me know where really I'm at is going to make for a successful application. Let's talk about some of the different heat presses that are out there and look at some examples here, and I've got some video for you guys too. The first one that I have come up here is a hat press. A lot of times people see a hat press and they think, oh, it's just for hats. All I'm going to be doing is these different hats and visors and things like that, but you can really do a tremendous amount more with a hat press. It really turns into a multi-function heat press for you. And we're going to look at a video and get a couple examples on that. This does open up like a clam, so the top's kind of pivots up there, and you're working under that heat platen. And you'll see in the video where I got my hands fairly close to it, so you do have to be careful. And what I mean by leave the work area hot is that it's right directly under that your hands are. It does have an auto-release feature on this one here, so when I'm done with the application, the arm will automatically open itself up. I don't have to lift that up on my own. This frees up the operator to be able to set up the next item that's going to be going into the heat press, or be able to attend to a customer that's walked in the door and not have fear of over-applying or even scorching the garment or the hat or whatever they're putting in there. So let's take a look at the video. Got a video right here, and what we're looking at, I'm going to pause in a couple spots. This is showing a table I've got set up with a bunch of different samples that I ran, and we're going to look at kind of some of the tools there. You'll see that recipe sheet that I have there. That's something that in the shop that I work out of, that we have a consistent sheet by all the heat presses that tells the operator this is the type of material I'm working with, whether it be quick print or maybe I'm working with a metallic print or something like the different products that we get, that it tells them the time, the temperature, pressure, what they need to make sure is in the heat press itself to get consistent results. So we're just going to pan across here and see some of the different items that we're going to apply with the heat press, and you'll see the cap press there at the end. And I think it'll fade out real quick, and we'll go into some application. You can see the press. Here's a close-up of a hat press, and it's showing the digital controls. I can set my temperature. I've got a couple different timers on this one. I've got a pre-press and a actual press on there, and I can adjust it to wherever I want. Right next to my finger, that 0 at the bottom there, that's a pressure indicator. And you can see when I close the press, it shows a 5 and a 6, and I was jiggling around a little bit so the pressure was a little bit off. But that's how I can tell the proper pressure that I'm getting every time. Here you can see it's an interchangeable platen, so I can do different sizes on the different, say I'm doing a ball cap and I've got a child's ball cap, or I'm going to a highbrow one that's got not a mid cap, but I need a little bit more in there for the heat platen. I can change that. I've got the clamp down at the bottom there that will stretch the hat taut so that I can get it in there. And then I've got a knob underneath that you saw me adjust there to get the different pressure. It'll raise or lower that platen so that I can get proper pressure. I'm putting the hat onto the platen here, making sure it's nice and snug, and then I'll adjust that clamp to keep it in there nice and tight. I want to lower the arm there to make sure that I'm all lined up, and I've got a piece of Teflon that I put across there. This is also functioning as my pre-press on it. That'll open up on its own. I can remove my Teflon, and now I'm going to apply, I'm going to fade in and fade out. I'm going to apply the prints onto the hat itself. So I remove my backing from it, align it onto the cap, and you can go right across the seams on ball caps here. Good solid platen on this. It's got that silicone piece going across at the pad to make sure that the pressure is even all the way across. It will cover that seam properly, and it will get for a very good print onto there. And as soon as it's done, it'll open back up for us, and I'll be able to remove the cap from there, take off the mask that had the print onto it, and then be able to show you the finished results. So I'm taking off the mask. Now you see how close my hand is to that heat platen. Some people will prefer to take it off without take the ball cap out before removing their mask and then put it back in. I'm just careful when I go in there. That heat platen is not real close to my hand, but I could bump into it, so you have to be careful. I did another press on there to make sure that it was fully applied and that there was no issues with it. I'll take the ball cap off, and you'll see the finished product right across the center seam, no issues whatsoever. Nice looking print. All right, I think that's it for this portion. No, here I'm going to be showing you the different items that you can use a hat press for and give you a couple ideas. I'm showing a ball cap to make sure that people realize that you can also do the sides of the ball cap with a heat press, or the back portion here, where a lot of people like to put a name or something like that across the opening in the back portion. I can get it nice and flat across there and do a good application there. So that opens up some more sales opportunities for us. You'll see that I'm going across the brim of the cap there. You can fit that right into it. So there's multiple places that you can do across a ball cap to increase your sales with each and every customer that you have working with it. The next one that I'm going to have come through here is a visor cap, I believe. Grabbing the visor cap. And even though it's just a small area on there, it'll still fit perfectly into the heat press. I can line it up with the bottom edge there, and I'll be able to heat press right down onto it. Don't forget, the sides and the back of that visor, they're more sales points for you and more advertising. Say there's a sponsor that wants to get their name onto the ball cap that they're giving away at an event, well, there's another spot for it. And here I've got one of those fleece headbands with the ear covers that you can do. You can apply directly to fleece. It's just aligning it in here. Here's some sports shorts, some running shorts, being able to apply at the bottom edge there without having to worry about having multiple layers in my heat press where I might have the inner liner on that short interfering with the heat press that I'm applying, and I'll get lines in it. Here's a t-shirt, and we're going to apply to the inside of the neckline so that I could relabel it for myself. Instead of having their tag in there or even behind the tag that's in the shirt, I can just flip that back and I can apply a print right into that area there. So now I've got my own custom branding or labeling. Or what if I want to put the company name across the back of the neck so I get a little bit more advertising real estate on that? Just slide it over, line it up, nice, flat, and even, and I can apply that on there. The last piece I'm going to show you on this t-shirt is a lot of times see people wanting to put things on sleeves, but the seam at the bottom of the sleeve in the shirt can interfere with what you're doing. A lot of times people will get a Teflon pillow, or they'll get one of the Print Perfect pads. Works great. If you've got a clamshell or whatever other type of flat press, you can use that. But if you've got a hat press, this is a great way to have things set up over to the side and be able to go through those sleeves very quickly. So on a t-shirt, there's many, many places. This is a Cordura wallet. You can heat press right onto this. It'll fit in there. It's somewhat flat on it, and you'll see me put a piece of Teflon across the top of it, and then we're going to heat press it down just to show you that it's not going to damage that wallet. And you can apply directly to things like that. You could also, any type of object that you can fit in there, really. So you're not limited to just ball caps. All right, we'll pause this here, and we'll go back over. So that's a little overview of the hat press. I think this is one of those heat presses that people don't think about all the other things it can do. The name hat press really is kind of deceiving in that this is a multi-function press that when you get in your shop, you can really expand into a lot more products a lot more placement, and give customers more options out there, which means that you're getting more business back into you. So I really like the hat presses. The next type of heat press that we're going to look at is the clamshell. The clamshell opens just like it says. It opens like a clam. You've got the bar that lifts up, the same as the hat press that we just looked at. We've got the digital controls on here, exactly the same as the hat press. A good quality steel frame on this one. I've got the knob. You can see a knob right here on top of it. Let me highlight. We'll do the little highlighter, and you've got the knob on the top here, which we can turn clockwise and counterclockwise to increase our pressure, which will read out on the indicator up here. So I can see pressure as I close the clamshell and apply it to it. So those are really nice features to be able to have in it. Let's see if I can clear those. Oops, hit the wrong button. So opens like a clam, takes less space. I just have the heat press itself there, and it's going to open up right in front of me, and I'm going to be able to place my garment or whatever I'm applying to directly onto the platen below it. Like the hat press, though, this one can leave your work area hot. You have to be careful that I've got enough room in there and I'm comfortable with it that I can get my hands under there and set up my garment. On some of the transfers that you use, it will have a masking material on it that has a little tackiness to it. So I've seen a lot of shops where they'll put the print onto the shirt, allowing the tackiness of the carrier to hold it there, and then they'll position it in the heat press itself to be able to apply it. So they don't have to worry about alignment or anything working under that heat platen. So there's some opportunities there with that. This one here does have an auto-release feature. Let me get that highlighter back. And the auto-release feature, just like on the hat press, is right here. It's a solenoid magnet that holds that bar down so that when I'm operating the press, it will hold it down for the time period that I've specified when I use the programming controls on there. When it reaches the end of its time, it's going to automatically release that magnet, and the arms will swing up, and it'll open the clam. This prevents scorching. It allows the operator to be able to set up something else for the next thing that's going to be running through the heat press and increases production on it. I like the auto-release feature quite a bit myself. I'm one of those guys that gets a little distracted sometimes, so I've been known to forget about the heat press when something else is happening near me. So having something that will auto-release and keep me safe and keep the garment safe is a very nice thing. So that's the clamshell. Let's take a look at our next one. This is the Fusion, and there were a few of you out there that said that you already have the Fusion and that you like it. This is a phenomenal heat press, absolutely amazing. It is programmable, it's digital, it has a touch screen on it. It's both a swinger and a drawer, and what we mean by a swinger is the top portion there will swing out of the way, and we're going to show you a video at the end of this slide that it'll completely open up the workspace that I'm have for the platen there. So I can get that out of the way. I don't have to worry about that heat platen being there. I can adjust whatever I want under there. It really is a nice feature. This one is also a drawer. You see the handle on this. Let me highlight that for you. The handle right here will allow me to pull that drawer out and be able to have that in front of me. So I can decide how much space I need on this. For a swinger, the top portion there would swing to the side, so I would need all this area around to the side here to swing that out. So I've got a lot of room, extra room that I need working with this heat press. Well, if I don't have a whole lot of room, I can simply use the handle, pull it towards me, and now I've got my work area in front of the heat press, and I haven't used up any more side-to-side space. So you can really decide which way you want to go with this heat press, which makes it kind of revolutionary. I don't believe there's any other out there like this. Leaves the work area cooler. I've got it swung away, or I've got the drawer out to me. I don't have to worry about that heat platen anymore. We're going to show you the interchangeable platens on this. On almost all the other heat presses I've shown here, it's a bit more difficult. You can change out all the heat platens, but you need to unscrew it and remove it from there and put a new one in and screw it in, which most of the time means you're going to want that heat press cooled down to be able to switch them out. With the Fusion, it's a simple pin on the bottom, and we'll be able to lift that out, and I'll show you the video, and be able to put a new one directly in right after that. So I don't need to let the machine cool down. I don't need to change anything with it. I can get this right away going and changing out in between platens for me. Like I said before, fully programmable digital controls. This one comes with a whole bunch of presets in it, but as the operator, I can set my own presets or I can adjust the ones that are in there. So if I find that I get a little bit better results that vary from what the manufacturer recommends with a certain product, I can change those in here and be able to keep consistent results so that the operator doesn't need that recipe table that I showed you earlier. They can go right up to the Diffusion, do the arrows over until they decide what media they're working with right there, and it's all pre-programmed in. The only thing that I wish this one could have, and because of the configuration of it being a swinger and a drawer as it is, that it can't have, is it doesn't have an auto release. Now, before I really got to use one of these, I was kind of a little hesitant about the fact that it didn't have an auto release, and like I said before, I get easily distracted, and I like to have that safety function there. I can tell you from after using this for a while that it doesn't bother me anymore. I like the way the heat press operates. I love the swing and the drawer function. If I'm doing multi-layer vinyls, I'm doing a couple different colors, and I've got single cat-cut vinyl, having the drawer function and being able to keep the garment directly where it is and just be able to peel off my masking and put the next one on top of it and slide it right back under, it really changed the way I thought about this machine. So fantastic heat press, totally revolutionary, and I think it's a great addition for a lot of people out there. And hopefully those of you out there that have this press are very happy with it too. So let's take a look at the video. And I need to switch back over here. On the video here, we're showing the Fusion, and you can see I've got the drawer pulled out there. Yeah, let me see if I can highlight anything. So the drawer's pulled out right now. And I'm going to put a shirt on there, and I'll put the drawer back in so you guys can see that operation, and then I'll swing it aside. Okay, now you see me putting the shirt around it. Another feature about this heat press here, and you'll see I'm struggling with it a little bit. And we're going to talk at the end of this webinar about some things you can do to make it a lot easier going across there. I'm putting the shirt around that platen. On the Fusion, and there's a couple other heat presses like this too, it's fully throatable, which means that platen has got an arm going underneath it, and I can put that shirt completely around it, so I don't have to worry about any of the seams or anything else on that getting in the way when I heat press through it. So it's a great feature of this heat press. So here I've got the shirt on there. You're seeing me show the drawer pull back and forth on it. And now I'm going to swing it aside so you can see how it opens up there and swings aside and allows me to choose if I want more or less space here or how I prefer to operate the press. In this next portion of it, we got a little closer up on it so you can see the touch screen digital controls. Absolutely unique in heat presses here. I can change the temperature on it. I was going to go with opaque media there, but I'm going to change it over on a temperature that I prefer for it, or maybe I'm doing a lower temperature application where I'm worried about a polypropylene bag or something like that. So I'm going to increase the time that's there, but decrease the temperature to get a proper application. And I just turned this one on so it's heating up. There's the control knob, just like the other heat presses for our pressure, where I'll turn it left and right to increase or decrease pressure. And on the digital control, you can see that it's got that pressure indicator. And the arm, you just pull it towards you to engage the heat press itself and have it actuate. Here I'm showing the platen itself. Remember I told you can move a pin on the bottom and lift it right out. And you can see, let me pause this. I need to get back to my pointer, sorry. Let me pause that there and go back just a hair. You can see the arm underneath it that allows the garment to go all the way around the platen. This allows us to throw it on there, and I don't have to worry about any of those seams or anything. So I've got the platen out. The pin that's right there just goes right back into the hole in the center of the arm. And once I've got it in there, I can twist the knob on the bottom, and it's locked into place. It's locked right in. It's not going to move around, and I'm ready to go. I could have changed out the platens to a different size, and I didn't need to allow this to cool down or anything. We can go right into the next project that I've got lined up. So now we've got a new heat press shown there, so we're going to go back to our display. And my stuff got messed up a little bit here, so let me switch over. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back to the Fusion here, and we looked at the video already, so we'll go on to the next one. The next one in the lineup here we have is the air swinger. The air swinger is going to act pretty close to what the Fusion was in operation for the swing away. So I do need a little bit more space for this one. I've got to swing it to the side. There's different types of stands with this. It's not just a tabletop model like you see in the picture right here. There is also a free stand, or free standing unit that you can have this one with, so that you can put it in the middle of a shop floor or off to the side. You don't need a tabletop for it. You can have a stand that allows it to be freestanding. It's air controlled with pressure. That means I've got to have a air compressor, a line going up to this to be able to have it operate. The operator will simply press a couple buttons on it. It will actuate it and have it apply to the garment, and then when it's done with its timing cycle, it will release itself and bring the heat platen back up. So the heat platen itself is what goes up and down there. There's safety features on this one. You'll see it in the video, but I'll point it out where they are right on this. Get my highlighter back. This button right here, there's one on the outside too. You can't see it in this picture. There's buttons on either side there, which means the operator physically has to have both hands there pressing the buttons at the same time to be able to allow this to actuate. The reason behind that is we don't want to have the operator have their hand underneath that when this actuates and potentially press the button and have that go down, and now their hand's trapped in there until they can get this timing cycle off. So that's a safety feature that's in this one here. We've got a knob on the top to be able to adjust our pressure. We've got a pressure indicator and digital controls just like all the other ones. Again, this one is throatable, just like the Fusion. And you can see it's got an opening underneath it there where the arm comes up to it, very similar to the Fusion, so that I can put my shirt or garment or whatever I'm putting on there around it, and I don't have to worry about any seams or a pocket on a hoodie or something like that, a neckline on a shirt. It's not going to matter on it because it's just the portion that I'm heat pressing that is on top of that platen. Automatic application release, fully programmable digital controls. I can set this one up to be able to operate, put my time, temperature, and pressure in there, and it's going to maintain it exactly and consistently every single time. So let's take a look at the video of this one. And on the video here, you see I've got it. I'm pointing out the pressure indicator. I've got the safety features on both sides there. You have to press it. You see both my hands hit it, and they had to be up there for it to actuate. It lowered the heat press. It raises it back up, and now I can swing it away. You can see that I can put my arm completely around this, no interference whatsoever, so it's very easy to put a garment completely around this platen here and be able to apply. And we've got our recipe sheet coming up there again. This is just a little bit more of a close-up on this. Now this is something I printed out, but it could be any type of sheet or even a whiteboard that you put over by your heat press area, but it's one of those little things that can change the way you work. You might be working with 10 different products, and when you get over to the heat press, you're like, well, I know right now I'm working with EcoFilm, and I know I use it a lot, but I've forgotten, for whatever reason, what temperature I'm applying at. And you're either looking for the catalog so you can find it, or you're going online to our website to try to find what the temperature is to apply it at, or whichever way you're going, because you might not have that Fusion that's programmed into it. Having this over by your work area there in whatever fashion that you make it will make your life much easier, because you'll be able to reference it right away. Oh, yep, it's EcoFilm. It's right here on the sheet. I can tell what my time, temperature, and pressure need to be, how much I prefer to pre-press it, how much I like to post-press it. Is it a cold peel? Is it a warm peel? I put all this information on there, so now that it's very accessible to me, and I can get the information I need without having to go look for it anywhere if I've forgotten it. Or maybe I'm using a material that I don't use that often. It'll still be there for me. So you can see that there. Let's go back to this presentation, and still got the air swinger there, so let's take a look at the next slide here. Let's talk about accessories a little bit. There's tons of different accessories that you can get for this, but each one has a certain purpose. And some of them I think it shouldn't even be a question. You should have this type of accessory there. The top one, the Teflon sheets. I can't tell you how many times I personally have messed it up and forgotten a Teflon sheet. And that print looks really nice when it's applied to the top of the heat platen because I forgot to put it in there on my post press. And now I've got to let the heat press cool down. I've got to clean that off of there and make sure it's all clear, and then I've got to heat the entire heat press back up so that I can do some applications on some junk shirts to make sure that nothing's left there. It can be a real pain in the butt. So having those Teflon sheets right next to the heat press and getting in the mindset of using it, a Teflon sheet or a craft paper, having that there every single time, and no matter what, if I'm doing a pre-press, post-press, anything, that Teflon sheet goes in there. And that's going to keep me in the mindset of never forgetting it and having that instance where I accidentally applied the print now to the heat platen and I got to clean it. The quick slip cover, this is the one. Let me highlight the Teflon sheets here. These are the Teflon sheets. Here's our quick slip covers. I'm going to show you a portion in the video in just a couple seconds here, or a couple minutes, that shows that quick slip cover goes over the platen there. So you guys saw how I struggled a little bit with the shirt going on the Fusion there because I didn't have that quick slip cover over it. And the shirt was grabbing on the pad that's on the platen, which I need that pad there so that it'll make sure that the pressure's nice and even and consistent across there. But having this quick slip cover, which is Teflon also, will allow me to slide that shirt right on there, makes my production time much less, makes life easier for us. So I could struggle with the heat press every time, and maybe I get to a system where I'm a lot faster at it and everything, but having this quick slip cover will really speed things up for me. There's another nice benefit of it that, say you're working with plastisol transfers and you're doing a left chest front and then a full back on it. Well, I've applied my left chest front and I flip over the shirt, and I don't have a heat press that's throatable, so I can't put the shirt around the platen. So that left chest now is towards the platen itself. And if I didn't have this quick slip cover that has the Teflon on it and I applied that to it, well, now I run into the possibility that the left chest logo is still warm, or maybe I heat it up enough that it's going to, a little bit of it may come off and I have a shadow or a residue on my pad now, the platen pad, and it could transfer to the next shirt that I bring in there. I've seen this one myself in production where I'm working with a bunch of navy blue shirts and I've got a really involved graphic and it's got a heavy plastisol to it, and I'm using the plastisol transfers, and after a while, because I didn't have this type of quick slip cover, I'm now seeing a shadow of that left chest on the backs of some of the shirts that I'm pressing after that. So it's a great addition to it. It's not really something that I think you can live without to a certain extent. If you get some residue on this, like I said with Teflon, I just take a rag, I can wipe it down, it's nice and clean and clear, and I'm ready to move on to the next one. The Print Perfect pads, these right here, if I don't have that hat press and maybe I'm doing a sleeve or something like that on a shirt, I can put one of these in here. It's very similar to what the platen is made out of, that rubber silicone that's on there. It's a high density silicone, I believe. And what I would do is I would put that inside the sleeve now so that it will absorb what that seam on the underside of the sleeve is, and I won't have that show up in the prints on the outside of the sleeve. So these come in various sizes. You can even get big ones and cut them down for custom applications. You might have an odd shape that you're applying a graphic to, and you want to have that shape be able to raise above a seam or be able to hold it open. This is a great way to do that. There's also Teflon pillows. I don't have it pictured here. The Teflon pillows do essentially the same thing. It's Teflon on the outside, and it's got a foam on the inside that's able to absorb that seam and be able to make it for a consistent pressure across there. But I think the Print Perfect pads do a better job of it because of the density of it. With the pillows, sometimes I found that I'm not quite getting that even, consistent pressure across the area where I'm applying to, excuse me, and I can have a print that, if it's not consistent like we talked about before, that it's not coming out exactly how I want it to. Now, the pillows are great. I've used them a bunch of times. Sweatpants and shirt sleeves, especially long sleeves, they're great for if I'm trying to put something down an entire long sleeve shirt. Those pillows are fantastic for that. Also in the smaller garments, like maybe I'm working with a onesie and it's got the seams along the sides there, and I want to be able to absorb that a pillow is a great application for that too. So both of them work very well. I just personally prefer the Print Perfect pads over the Teflon pillows. We kind of touched on the craft paper a little bit earlier. The Teflon sheets and the craft paper both protect the print, especially in your post-press, if I'm going to hit it again with the press. The Teflon sheets tend to give a little bit more shine. They make it very smooth across whatever you're printing. And that shine now, sometimes people don't like that glossy finish on it, and they want more of a matte finish. Well, craft paper, you can use that to give yourself a little bit more of a matte finish on it because it'll dull out the print a little bit. So the purpose behind that is to get the desired look for the customer. The downside to craft paper, a Teflon sheet, I've had Teflon sheets that I've been using for well over 6 years. They will last a long, long time. Now some of them are a little beat up and some of them are ragged, and I've added more as I've gone along and done more and more heat application. The craft paper does have a lifetime to it. They're very inexpensive, but you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 10 uses out of a piece of craft paper before it's just not going to function the way it should, and it loses some of that. It's almost got like a waxy surface on it. Now this craft paper is different. I've had people say, well, why don't I just go get some butcher paper or some wax paper? It is not thermal resistant on those types of papers. The coating they have on them and the paper itself is not thermal resistant like the craft paper you would be getting here. So it's important to not substitute for that, because you could actually scorch that or even ruin the garment or the transfer you're working with if you don't have the proper equipment. So very different than the butcher paper or wax paper that a lot of people ask about. The last thing that I have on this list here is thermal tape. And you can see the thermal tape and the thermal tape dispenser here. This is great if I've got some plastisol transfers. And remember on the clamshell where we had it open up, I could set my garment to the side of that clamshell, place the transfer where I want it, take a couple pieces of thermal tape here, which is not going to melt. It's thermal resistant. It's going to be able to withstand the temperatures that we're using in a heat press. Remember, this isn't like the iron at home. This is a very high temperature, high pressure application that we're doing here, so we need equipment that can withstand that. So this tape, I could use it to place that print on the garment and then move that into the clamshell, so I don't have my hands up in there and I'm not risking getting a little bump against the heat platen or something along that lines. So it can make your life a little easier on placement. It can make it easier on safety and making sure that you get everything where you want it, when you want it. So let's take a quick look. I want to show you guys the quick slip cover on one of the heat presses. I got to switch my marker over here. So I show the recipe sheet real quick there, and here I believe I go back over, and remember I was telling you it's kind of difficult because this rubber pad that's here on the platen itself, it's grabbing onto that shirt. Now if I'd opened up the shirt more and kind of slid it across, or I could have taken a Teflon sheet and maybe been a little bit faster with it, but you can see how it's grabbing onto that pad that's there, and it's not allowing me to slide it on very smoothly. So I get it on there. I'm happy with placement, and then I can go into heat pressing itself. Next I'm going to show you, here's that air swinger, and it's got the quick slip cover on it. So now I'll take the shirt, and you saw how long it took me with the other one. I've got it open, and slide. It's right on. Because it's Teflon coated, it's going to make it very easy and very smooth for me to slide that right across there. It really can make a difference in production, especially if you're doing a lot of production. Even in the small shops, you get a big order where I've got 500 shirts coming through. I've got all my transfers ready, or I could have multiple orders and I'm going to be heat pressing for half the day. If I take an extra 15, 20 seconds on each one of those shirts that I'm doing over the course of the day, it's going to add up to quite a bit of time. So having something as simple as that quick slip cover on your bottom platen of the machine can certainly speed up your production quite a bit. So we've covered all the different accessories here, and I actually think I'm on my last slide. Now we've got plenty of time here for some questions and answers.
Hi, Stephen. It looks like we only have one question, a couple questions so far.
Okay.
Okay. It's the first one is, how do you avoid having a press mark at the top of a hat. I always get that no matter what suggestions I have been told.
I'm guessing what the person is asking here is they're talking about the heat press mark that can sometimes come across on different items, be it a hat or any other object, where the temperature has affected the garment. On most of your cotton poly blend garments, you can see a discoloration on the garment from the heat that's been applied to it, but as it cools down, that's going to go away. With a ball cap or something like that, where you've got a defined line on there, it may not necessarily be possible always to get rid of that. Typically when I've seen that on garments, after I wash it, it goes away. People don't typically wash a ball cap though. I would recommend looking that they might want to do some testing on that. They may be applying it at too high of a pressure. If they're really going high on the pressure there and they don't need it that high of a pressure, it's going to push that fabric and the ball cap, and could discolor it. It could cause a crease in there. It could cause any number of things. And they may also, on their post-press, they might want to go a lighter pressure on it and adjust that ball cap on there, so where that line was before is now on the platen, and when they press it the second time, it's going to kind of smooth it out for them a little bit. So if that person wants to contact me after the webinar, they can send me a couple pictures of what they're talking about, and maybe we can kind of troubleshoot the exact process they're using. I suspect it may be due to either too high a temperature for the product they have. It might be the right application temperature for what they're putting on there. But say in the instance of a polypropylene or a nylon shell or something along that lines, we still have to be very conscious of the temperature that we're applying it at, because too high of a temperature can discolor, can distort, can change that fabric on there. So we would have to look at alternatives of a lower temperature application product, or seeing if you can apply that same product to the same garment, that same substrate, at a lower temperature but a higher dwell time, which will allow the adhesive to flow into it properly. So it may take a little bit of testing on that particular product.
Okay, thanks so much, Stephen. We have one more question for you. It says, on the Diffusion heat press, how do I adjust the pressure? With the platen closed or up, or does it matter?
It does matter, and actually on all the heat presses it's going to matter for you. You would change the pressure on all of them when the platen is, when the heat press itself is open. If I'm trying to change it while it's down, I'm working against the pressure that is being applied already and trying to increase that. It's just not going to work very well. It'll be very, very difficult to do. So what I usually do is I'll adjust my pressure with everything open. I'll test it, and keeping in mind that whatever substrate I'm applying to, whatever garment that I'm putting in there after that, is going to add a little bit of thickness, another layer inside there that is going to increase that pressure slightly. So I may even put the garment on there and check the pressure a couple times as the heat press is heating up and see where it's at. If the heat press is already at temperature, I may use that as my pre-press. As I'm clamping it down, I'll take a look at my pressure. Oh, it's a little too high, I'll open it up, adjust it, test again. And realize that every garment that you put on there can cause it to be slightly different. If I am, oops, I'm going to postpone this. Sorry about that, folks. We don't want to restart the computer in the middle of the webinar. If I'm changing the type of garment that I'm putting in there, say I've got now a sweatshirt that I'm putting in there and I was doing t-shirts before, that's drastically going to change my pressure, and I need to be conscious of that and change it before I go into actual application, because if I go right into it, it's going to be at a much higher pressure, and I may be putting too much pressure on the media that I'm applying to it. So bottom line, we want to do it when the press is open and not engaged, and you'll take that knob on most of them that's on the top, the center control pressure that's unique to the Hotronix presses, and turn it right for more, left for less. On the air swinger that you saw, there was a knob on the top of it. And let me see if I can go back and show you in the video maybe. And we'll go down to here. I think I had the, let's see. On this one here, you can see the knob on the top of it there by the control arm. And I would change my pressure there before applying it to the garment. I'll skip ahead a little bit. And the air swinger. I think this one is, I don't swing it back here, so I'm going to have to jump to another point in the video. See if I can find it real quick for you. The air swinger itself, there is a knob on the top, a black knob that you turn. Let me pause the video. There's a black knob directly on top of it that's sticking up there. It's actually locked into place. You'll lift it up and that'll unlock it, and I can turn it, and it will, the dial, the indicator below it will show the increase or decrease in pressure. And what's really unique on this type of heat press here, the air swinger, is there's no guesswork whatsoever. On any of the presses there, I'm going to see an indicator from 0 to 9 to tell me how much pressure I'm using. And you'll get this type of material needs to be applied at a medium pressure, which would be a 5 on that scale. Needs to be a heavy pressure. Then I would go to an 8 or so, a 7 or 8. On this one here with that dial that's there, as I turn it up, it's going to tell me exactly how much pressure I'm applying every single time. So if I want to go 80 psi as I'm applying it, and I can dial it right up there, it's going to be consistently and accurately every single time 80 psi when I'm doing an application. So that's a little unique to that heat press there, whereas the other ones, you're going to have a scale of 0 to 9. So hopefully that'll help the person out there. Do we have any more questions?
We actually do. We have one person that actually has 2 questions. His first question is, what tips can you share about heat press maintenance? And the second part is it fine to leave a press on all day, even if there's a gap in usage during the day?
Okay. Well, the first one there on tips on maintenance on it, one of the biggest one is to keep that heat platen itself clean. You'll from time to time you'll want to clean it off. You may want to take a very light citrus-based cleaner or something like that. Nothing that's abrasive, because a lot of those heat platens have a Teflon coating on them also, which is great for when we do make that mistake, we're able to clean it off a lot easier. But you'll want to make sure that there's no residue, no ghosting or anything on top of that, so that the subsequent heat pressing you do is not going to have that transfer over. So for maintenance on that, that's probably the biggest one, making sure that your press stays clean. And a couple of the joints on there, I've had one heat press for going on, I believe, almost 6 years that's done production, not every day, but it's been very consistent over the years. And I haven't had any issues with it on greasing or oiling or anything like that. And greasing, I would go back to the manufacturer and ask them what their recommendation is for it. So maintenance-wise, there's really not much to these heat presses. What was the second part of the question again, Nicole?
The second part says, is it fine to leave a press on all day, even if there are time gaps in usage during the day?
Is it okay? Sure. Absolutely. I've been to many shops that will leave they'll start the heat presses up when they come in the morning, and they have the clamshell open, or they've even got a hover press. That pad that's underneath, there's enough of a gap in there, or should be enough of a gap, that it won't overheat. It's not going to melt. It's meant to withstand the temperatures and everything. I would say if you do that every single day and you're not using it consistently, it would probably degrade that pad over an excessive amount of time. The bigger concern on that one, though, is more along the lines of how much energy are they consuming, and the bottom line to that shop on how much they're paying for their electric bill. The vast majority of draw on these machines is when they heat up. So a lot of people will turn them on and let them sit for a while because they want to be able to go over and use it right away. They don't want to wait for it to heat up. And that's where the bulk of the electrical cost is coming from. But if I leave it on all day and say I turn it on in the morning and I'm not using it till late afternoon, I'm going to be paying obviously some money for it to maintain its temperature. So bottom line, is it okay to turn it on and leave it on? Sure, you can do that. But you may want to take a look at maybe time it a little bit better for when your production is going to be. Interesting point with that, the Fusion has a function in it that you can set up for the machine to turn on at a specific time of day. It's got an internal clock. So if I know I'm going to be coming in the morning and I'm going to be doing heat press right away, I've got my stuff all lined up and set up from the night before, I can program it so that when I come in the morning at 8 o'clock, it's already at temperature and I can jump right into work. Or if I know production in my shop, we typically hit the heat press at around 1 o'clock right after lunch. Well, I can again program it to do that. I can also program it so it shuts itself down after a certain period of time, or at a certain time in the day it shuts itself off. So even if the operator walks out at night and forgot to turn the heat press off, it will shut itself off after a period of time. Or if I know I never heat press after 5 o'clock at night because that's closing time, we can set it that every day it'll turn itself off. So again, some unique features on a revolutionary heat press that really kind of set itself apart from the rest.
We have one last question.
Any more
That's
questions
okay.
in there, Nicole?
Yes, we have one last one. It says, does Imprintables...
Absolutely. We got time.
Okay. Does Imprintables have the recipe sheet available for download?
I can add that. The last slide, and I'll switch back over to it here. I can add that to my blog. It's thegarmentedge.com. You'll see it down at the bottom there. And there's a download section on there. I've got a couple of designs that we used at one of the trade shows that we were giving out for free, and I've got a couple more that I'm going to add on there by request from different people. And I can add that recipe sheet on there for anybody to download if they want. So that would be the place to go to find that.
Okay, thanks so much, Stephen. That looks like it's all the questions for us today.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate everybody coming out and spending a little bit of time with me this afternoon. Hopefully it was worthwhile to you, that you got some good knowledge on what your next heat press you should be looking for in it, or taking a look at the heat press that you have and finding some different ways to use it. And hopefully it's been a good session for you too. So looking forward to seeing everybody at the next one, and hope you have a great day.